In the pages of Clive Barker's The Next Testament comic, we are introduced to the all-powerful Lord and Father of Colors, Wick. Today, we delve deep into the story of Wick, exploring the chaos and mayhem that he's capable of and what became of him by the end of his second coming. Before we get into this explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. The backstory of Wick, the Lord of Colors. At the beginning of our story, Wick was trapped inside an elaborately decorated pyramid structure buried in an unknown desert. He would appear in the dreams of the rich and powerful, and in particular a man named Julian Edmund, and it was his literal blind faith in Wick that allowed him to find the pyramid in which Wick was trapped. Covering his eyes with a shirt, Julian started searching for the pyramid until he fell by a structure piercing out of the sand. Once he removed the shirt, he realized that he found the pyramid and kept on digging until it was completely excavated. Following this, Julian started hitting the pyramid with a hammer and breaking it. As he did that, he was engulfed in a bright light from which Wick revealed his colorful self to him and proclaimed himself to be the Father of Colors as well as God himself. Wick was initially surprised that Julian spoke in English, but then went on to reveal that he was the one who invented the language. Once Wick was found, Julian decided to let his team of workers know that they were no longer needed and were fired. But Wick followed him to reveal that it was time for offering. Julian took him inside the tent where his wife, Vera, was sleeping and introduced Wick to him. But as soon as Wick touched her, she became almost zombified. Julian asked Wick what happened to her, but he didn't answer, and rather, as they made their way out of the tent, Julian found all the people outside to be floating in the air and then falling to their death on the ground, leaving only bloodshed. Wick later returned to the tent and read the Old Testament, revealing that the text was written with numerous liberties, making it sound like a fictionalized homage rather than a book of true facts. Wick disagreed with being called God, the Father, preferring himself to be referred to as more of a rogue. To give an example of why he preferred that, he revealed that the flood that was mentioned in the book occurred not because he wanted to rid the world of sin, but because he just wanted to see what would happen to the world in a flood. He then went on to reveal that he didn't actually burn down Sodom and Gomorrah, but instead enjoyed his time at Sodom until he was stopped by his fellow gods, which led to things getting out of hand to the point of the city's destruction. He also mentioned the act of turning a person's wife into salt to be completely made up. Soon Wick's fellow gods felt that they needed to step back from interfering with human life, but Wick disagreed, arguing that human beings needed gods, which was when things took a bad turn for him. Wick mentioned Abraham, whom he cherished to the point of wanting to build him a kingdom that would last for eternity. But once Abraham's son, Isaac, was born, Wick felt Abraham's promise of loving him forever to be fading. As a way to prove Abraham's undying love, Wick then asked him to sacrifice Isaac, but that was prevented by the other gods. The other gods went against Wick and banished the Father of Colors to a colorless void as punishment. Wick called the New Testament to be everything that happened following his imprisonment within the absence of the other gods, and even commended the human capacity for cruelty. He then told Julian that it was time for the second coming, as Julian started making preparations to return home. Wick was thoroughly impressed by the helicopter in which they returned to Julian's home, marveling at the human evolution to be able to conquer air as well as land. With Julian returning to his mansion, he threw a party the next day for Wick to introduce him to some of the most privileged people on Earth. As Wick met the guests, he misunderstood a man, George Swindon, who owned advertising airtime on television, to be the owner of literal air. He met 3 business partners who basically owned the internet, which Wick was impressed with, but he revealed that this was done by selling pornography, primarily fetish porn, which he also mentioned one of the men had first-hand knowledge of. As Wick met the guests, many were charmed, but a few were offended by him, which Julian didn't stand for. Wick even went on to reveal a female guest's young husband to be homosexual, which caused her to faint. In the end, when Wick met Julian's son, Tristan, and daughter-in-law, Elspeth, he was surprised by their genuine love for each other, mentioning that he needed to keep an eye out for them. The guests and Wick soon sat down for dinner, where Wick revealed his status as a god, which was met by a lot of skepticism and questions. When one of the guests asked him to perform a miracle, Wick, with just a small movement of his hands, blew off a nearby woman's head. The guests were left shocked and terrified of Wick. As soon as they tried to run away, Wick called it a hunt and left no time to kill off everybody with ease and pleasure. The guests were unable to leave because Wick locked the doors and tried to break the glass windows to escape. Wick, who was enjoying the killings, decided to give them what they wanted and shattered the glass, leading to the death of every single one of them. The only ones who remained alive were Julian, while Tristan and Elsbeth managed to escape through a hidden path on the floor. Tristan and Elsbeth's escape became a reason for Wick's undoing, as the lovers, a name they were given by Wick, went on a journey to the Preston Library, the oldest library in the US, and they found a way to defeat Wick after getting a first-hand experience of his madness. Following the bloodshed, Wick gave a final chance to Julian to leave his side if he wanted, though it became clear that no matter what Julian would have chosen, he was already in it for the long haul. Getting out of Julian's mansion, Wick met a large team of police who were notified by Elspeth about the massacre that took place there. Despite the police shooting at him with guns, Wick remained unharmed and was enjoying the sight of guns. It could be presumed that the police were also killed soon after, as Wick and Julian drove away not long after. Noticing an airplane in the sky, Wick asked Julian to stop the car as he caused the crash of not only the plane in sight, but also every other vehicle that was in the air at the time as a way to get the humans' attention about it being an act of God. Despite his efforts though, most people reported the plane crashes to be a large-scale attack rather than an act of God. In search of inspiration, Wick asked Julian to take him to a new place where people of a new world would go. Julian decided to take him to Hollywood, with that being the closest thing he could think of, but on their way, Wick realized that following the crashes, people would be trying their best to contact their loved ones to make sure they were safe. In a bid to bring back the chaos and madness of the older times, Wick decided to turn down the communication channels all across the world, which resulted in the complete failure of technologies like phone and television. Arriving in Hollywood, Wick was thoroughly unimpressed by the population and their life. Wick then caused more mass destruction, killing the 4 million person population of Hollywood with the intent of taking down the rest of the world soon after. Julian then took Wick to San Francisco, where he took charge and again took authority as a god, trying to take questions from the people about him and even wiping out the Midwest of America after being asked to by one of the men. After traveling a bit more with Wick, Julian grew impatient with Wick's plan and questioned him about the point of what he was doing. Realizing that humans were beyond redemption, Wick took Julian to Rome, where he marveled at its glory and decided to start the process of ending the world altogether. Seeing Wick giving no care about human life, Julian grew frustrated and finally decided to voice his opinion against him, asking him to leave. But with just a small flick of his hand, Wick threw Julian into a nearby wall, joking about his forgetfulness regarding his fragile human body. In his final moments, Julian asked Wick to let everyone know about his plans to create a bigger spectacle, to which Wick agreed. To cause one final spectacle with Wick's final words in the ears of every human being, Wick created a large horn, and he announced all over the world that, after traveling the world and finding human civilization in a state that was worse than he left it, he would be ending the world in just a few hours. Tristan and Elspeth also heard this as they arrived outside the Preston Library and finally got to work finding a way to stop Wick. Finding only the names of other gods, Tristan and Elspeth, along with the library's owner and her daughter, were filled with sadness to be unable to find a way to stop Wick. As they accepted their end, the young daughter reminded Tristan that the only way to find God would be to talk to them. This gave Tristan the idea to request the other gods, Filt and Unan, save them in their time of need. Thankfully, the other gods heard his prayers and appeared before Wick to stop him. The two gods fought with Wick in a bid to stop him, but his 2,000-year-old grudge wasn't going to be ended anytime soon, and he mocked the two's attempts to save the people that were left and promised that he would be ending them quickly. To end humankind, Wick took the form of a giant meteor, planning to crush life on Earth similar to how the dinosaurs once went extinct. But before he could end the rest of human life, he was stopped by the two gods, who held him on the ground and tried to explain that despite human life being flawed and struggling, with their faith in the gods, they deserved to live. Despite the darkness of the world, humans still continue fighting for what they believe in and what they love. Wick, shedding a tear, promised that this wouldn't be enough to stop him forever, as another human would dream of him again, and he wouldn't hesitate a moment to end the world like he did this time. In the end, Wick was finally trapped again by Filt and Unan, as Tristan and Elspeth spent the rest of their remaining life on Earth and went on to a new beginning. The Chromatic Arsenal, the powers and abilities of Wick. Being the all-powerful father of colors and also made up of them, Wick possessed the ability to travel anywhere that had colors. Wick could easily fly around the world, grow in size as much as he wanted, and manipulate matter to his whim. Even taking human life is a simple matter for him, despite how gruesome it may look. Wick also showcased the ability to know a human's life despite being told nothing about it. This could be due to his telepathic abilities, which grant him access to a human's mind and memories. Wick, despite being one of the three gods, could single-handedly destroy Earth if he tried to. Marvelous verdict! In The Next Testament, Wick stands out as an amazing reinterpretation of the all-caring and all-powerful God. A common grievance one has to deal with regarding God is why doesn't he fix the lives of all humans if he loves everyone so much? But Wick is an amazing deconstruction of that idea, as he's a god that not only thrives on the death of humans, but prefers humans to remain in fear or to not exist at all. In the face of a god who wants you to be erased, you have no option but to do your best and go against him. That's all for this time, but if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Thanks for watching, stay safe out there, and have a marvelous day.